All right, serious silliness bodybuilding. And my guest today is Seth Spartan from the Seth Spartan channel. What's up, Seth?
Yeah, what's going on, John? How you doing?
Good,
So,
good, good. Well, what happened was somebody I do this show every Monday night, right? No, yeah, Monday night. And I call it Anabolic Academy. People send me questions. And every once in a while I don't know the answer to a question, so I Google it or YouTube it. And the question was Winnie versus Anavar, right? And so I'm like looking for the answer. I YouTube it. I'm like, maybe I should get into more detail. And then your channel popped up, and
um,
I saw the video where you compared both of them. I'm like, oh, I gotta have this guy on. He knows what he's talking about. He's pretty good. So and then that's when I messaged you. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about, man. And so before we get started into actual details of anabolics, uh, do you study it? Did you go to school for it? How does that work?
yeah. I mean, I'll just give you the short rundown, and I'm sure we'll cover more ground as we get further in.
Hmm.
However long this runs. But basically, the long story is this, guys. I got into in college. I guess we'll start there. In college, I studied nutrition and training and all that related stuff. At UW Milwaukee. And then it wasn't until maybe just slightly after that I got into bodybuilding hardcore. Made a name for myself in the bodybuilding field, mostly training people. I did some crazy competition stuff also. I placed third at the Universe in, what was that, 2018? That was the
Really?
most yeah, that was the most I did with that then. And
What
then
category? That's a great placing.
I think that was what was that? That was heavyweight. I think I was 219 that show. Yeah, heavyweight.
Really? That's impressive,
Yeah.
man. Third in
Yeah.
the
So that
USA
was a
is
while
impressive.
ago. And then I got out for a while, completely stopped. My life just kind of blew apart. That's a whole nother long story, but got it back into bodybuilding, well, fitness, athletics, all that. Started doing YouTube again, maybe like 4 years later. Well, no, 20, maybe 3, 4 years later. I was 25 at the time, 28 now.
Hmm.
But I got back into it, doing all the YouTube stuff. And then what happened was I actually I had the owner of a hormone replacement clinic, so TRT clinic, right? They
Okay.
reached out to me. They said, "Hey, we know you." They already knew me from, or the owner knew me from uh, doing work for the supplement company and stuff. He reached out to me and
Right.
said, "You know your stuff. You can promote." Just he basically gave me a card, a green card, where I could just. He said, "Whatever." He said, "Talk about everything: nutrition, training, hormones, anabolic steroids, everything uncensored." And if they have a problem with something, then they're going to yell at me. But otherwise, I'm good to go. So, I spent my time anyway. What I do is I go through all the medical stuff, the scientific literature. I have my background in college. I also
Hmm.
have all my experience that I prior had in competitions. And then
Okay.
also in years past around the time of the universe and everything else, I also did a lot of coaching. So I had hands on
Sure.
experience too, which helps. Obviously, we know that plays in a big role. But then,
Right.
so I took all that, and then also talking to all the different doctors and everything else, and I
Hmm.
took that and I brought it to my channel, and that's where you see a lot of this stuff on the videos because he said just blast everything, talk about everything, hormones, replacement, anabolics, and just straight, short to the point. So then I do a little bit of coaching now too, and I'll just end with this: is I'm in a position now where basically what happens is people can either sign up at my website or they can come in through the clinic. And what I can do is I can third party. So what they'll do is they'll say, oh, we'll get all the levels checked, check your testosterone, check your HGH. And the doctor will say, oh, I think let's do this, this much test, this much whatever. And I'll say, well, maybe I think this might be a better fit. Or let's try this
Hmm.
first. The doctor went to school, he can write all the scripts, but he hasn't taken all the meds himself. He doesn't always know, like,
Yeah.
I've
Right.
pretty much used everything that the clinic, at least this clinic, has to offer. So that's really
Hmm.
where I'm at right now. I get to function as a nutrition, training, and hormone expert, mostly in the realm of hands-on, real-world experience and application. So I have the best job in the world, really. And
Ah. Okay.
yeah,
Very
and
cool, man.
I just got two books out too.
Really.
My first book is Super Male. That's on Amazon. Everything you need to know, basically, in one
S-
book: nutrition, training, hormones, anabolic steroids. And then
Super
my second
Male
book,
on Amazon. Okay.
yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Superman. And then the second book is Shredded in 7 Days.
Okay.
I wanted to see, if I got everything absolutely perfect, nutrition, training, hormones, testosterone, HGH, how fast can I rip off body fat? for me personally. So anyway,
And
so
that's on Amazon as well.
yeah, both of them are available on Amazon.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. I'm gonna put the links in the description area to both books so people could just click and go buy it.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
cool.
so now what you have to do is you have to talk to the owner of Prometheus and you go, oh, I know this guy who's got a great channel. He's really handsome and charismatic, and you better get on the train before it takes off, and everybody wants to sponsor him. And you hook a brother up. That's all. Because everything that I have is out of my pocket. So this shirt, Silverback, this fucking C4, nobody pays me shit. Everything I do is out of my pocket. Anyway, all right. Okay. So I'm just gonna ask you a couple of beginner questions, right?
Oh, shoot.
Okay. Every young kid that wants to jump on anabolics wants to start off with orals. They're all afraid to pin themselves and so on and so forth. And they all want Anavar. And as a matter of fact, it's not just young kids. It's pretty much everybody who is afraid or skeptical or wants to do it, but they're afraid of the side effects. They've kind of swallowed the propaganda from the media, and they go, Anavar, I just want to do Anavar. I just want to do Anavar. I just want to do Anavar. All right. So give me both perspectives. The beginner who just wants to do orals and the person that is fearful of doing it but wants to do it and decides, I just want to use Anavar.
Well, I'll start off. I mean, yeah, I could jump right into that. I think the better question is, do you want me to talk about health at all related, or do you want me just to jump into what their mentality, why they want to use Anavar?
Both.
Both.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you can. I mean, you don't have to, you don't have to do a dissertation on it, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to state this first and foremost is the issue is right off the bat, people want to take results over anything else, whether that's health, whether that's common sense, whether
right.
that's anything and that's in our world, period, in
Sure.
general. They want to just take, what results in the least resistance and just go with it. That's just that. And that's kind of how I was, except, maybe I was a little bit smarter and I was like, wait a second, if I want to do this long term, I'm going to need to do injectables. And why? Testosterone. But I want to cover your Anavar question. So in terms of Anavar, we know that what's going to, and this could apply to SARMs too, because that SARMs is maybe coming down in popularity a little bit too now. But This is a huge problem with SARMs, and I got to address this also in terms of shutdown. But people say, oh, I want to take Anavar, or maybe a little bit less common, Winstrol. They want to hop on the Anavar, whatever, 30, 50, whatever they read online, they hop on. And then they find out 2 weeks later, they have no estrogen and they have no testosterone.
Yeah.
They've got a list of anxiety, depression, they're going to have male problems too in terms of, fertility and everything else.
Yeah.
And then they're really in a mess and they're in a pickle.
Will the willy work? Because usually that doesn't affect.
Nothing works. Nothing's gonna work. Nothing's gonna work. I mean, nothing is gonna work. I mean, you're everything from your mood, everything's. And the thing is, it's not always just the testosterone. People need to understand this too on your channel is that estrogen plays a humongous role in the male body. For some reason, people don't know that. We've been commonly taught that, men need testosterone and women need estrogen. No, reality check, guys. Men need testosterone and estrogen. And guess what? Women need testosterone and estrogen in different ratios. I'll tell you this too. And this is another thing. I don't want to get too far off here into the woods here, but this is important right here, is that what people don't understand is that whether you're going on anabolic steroids or on testosterone replacement, or even on Anavar or what have you, the amount of estrogen you have in your body mediates not only how much growth hormone you produce, but also things like in regards to how much synovial fluid you produce is mediated by, guess what? Estrogen also. So, you have achy joints, and everything from achy joints, anxiety, you can't sleep, you produce less estrogen, to also, sexual dysfunction that you were talking about. Yeah. So this plays a humongous role in the human body. And I'll just say that one more time in case people aren't listening. For both males and females, testosterone and estrogen are about equally important. It's just the ratio is different. But I can tell you from, somebody, a stupid 21, 22-year-old, or even being plugged in with the clinic, guess what they do? They bring their estrogen too low. And then the men, guess what? They can't sleep. They have anxiety. Their
Yeah.
joints hurt. And then they also can have sexual dysfunction. And one last thing I want to just put out here before let's get back to Anavar. I don't want to
Yeah.
sidetrack
That's
too
all
much.
right.
But this is important too. In whether you do this with yourself in your own blood work, or if you look at the medical studies, when they were creating anabolic steroids, the scientists could not figure out why is it that some anabolic steroids increase your HGH, human growth hormone, and IGF-1, and why do others not? The scientists were stupefied. They couldn't figure this out. And then guess what? The answer is obvious. The anabolic steroids that convert into estrogen, testosterone, DECA, EQ, especially D-anabol, right? The list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
These all increase HGH, but things like Anavar, Anadrol, Masteron, Trenbolone, your HGH and IGF-1 level stays the same. And guess what they found out? Wait a second, it's not the anabolic steroids that increase HGH. Guess what it is? It's the estrogen. So how much estrogen you have in the male body and female body, for that matter, regulates how much HGH your pituitary is releasing. Okay, so that's extremely important. So to the men that are doing testosterone replacement, or even guys that are doing anabolics, if you bring your estrogen low, guess what's going to happen? You're putting a limiter on your pituitary gland. So I'm not telling you guys to let your estrogen go to the moon,
Right?
just go ridiculously high. But what I'm telling you is that you want your estrogen higher in the range at the top end, not the bottom, if you're trying to maximize not only health but performance and also HGH release. Okay.
All right.
Go back to your Anavar thing if you want.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. The question was, what's what's the mindset and the downside of these people that basically just want to use orals and specifically Anavar over anything else? Because anytime I ever speak to somebody who wants to use anabolics and they want to pick my brain and talk to me, they immediately just go, I want to use Anavar. And it's either young guys or it's a guy, that just never used anything before.
Yeah. When I was, a couple of years ago, I always heard that, except with the Anabol, but same sort of thing. I think I touched on that a little bit before I went off on that, science rant a second ago. It's easy. It's the ease.
I see.
They don't want to have to, first, they don't want to have to pin, whether they're scared or not. They don't want to have to pin. It's even too much work to stick a needle in or something. I don't know.
I think it's more fear than anything else.
Yeah. Some people are afraid, some people aren't, but fear you have but also laziness. I mean, you go to the gym nowadays and people can't even, they can't even put don't give me, sometimes I don't put my weights back, so I won't criticize them too bad.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm the lion on the ground afterward. Maybe, anyways, whatever. But so, it comes down to almost fear, yes, but then also comfort, where it's just like, they don't want to do it right. They don't want to take the time to. They just want to take as if taking, anabolics or hormones isn't easy enough, but they just want to be able to, I just want to take some orals and just leave it at that. They want to pop it. Maybe, it's a little more convenient, but, long term and as well as overall gain, and health's another story. I think it's just a sign of the complete laziness of our culture today. Really, it's just laziness at that point. Maybe laziness and fear combined, but most people, I think it's just, I just want to pop some orals and be done with it. They don't even want to. I think it's just the laziness of our generation, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think you're accurate on all spots. But why do they pick Anavar out of all the orals? Why do they pick Anavar? Because here's the thing. When I was a kid and I first did, I was 21. I had the same mentality. I just want to use orals, but I wanted the strongest one, right? I didn't want to take Anavar. So I remember and everybody's like, oh, Anadrol's the strongest oral. So I remember it was Anadrol. It was called Anapolin. I think the right. And I took that, and that was the first thing. But this seems to be more like this kind of fear angle where it's like, I only want to take Anavar because it's safe and there's no side effects and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. Whereas, as I was a young kid, my mentality was, I'm going to take an oral, but I want the strongest one. I don't want, something, I'll deal with the side effects,
Yeah, I think well, that's a whole nother discussion, which is, more powerful oral. I would argue, and this is coming from somebody who's used like prescription stuff straight from the pharmacy. The
Right.
most powerful oral that I've taken, prescription pharmaceutical, is Anavar over Anadrol. But I'm going to pause
I
there. I'm going to
did
answer.
I did see that video. I'll
I'm,
ask you a question about that. Go
yeah,
ahead.
we'll go in that in a second. But to answer your question, the reason they're doing it is because we live in the age too where people they want to put some size on, but they don't want to almost get too big. That's
Oh,
you know
yeah.
you know what I'm talking
Okay.
about. I want to go to the gym.
That
When I
makes
say
sense.
I
Yeah.
want to go to the gym. I want to put some size on, but I want to stay cut. I don't want to get too big.
Yeah.
I want some aesthetics or and
Right.
not understanding the simple truth is that your size and your leanness and everything diet is going to play a humongous key in terms of you want to look aesthetic, you want to look not too big kind of thing too. So
Yeah.
it's not just coming down to just not just the anabolics, but also the diet. And also, if we want to talk about different training in terms of like calisthenics versus training for size, Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman, and stuff. So I think it's this mentality of, oh, I want to look good and shredded, but I don't want to be too big. And the information out on Anavar, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what I need.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
people are not watching. Yeah,
You,
most people are not watching my video or some of these other guys that are saying no. Anavar is probably the most powerful commercially. I'll say that Anavar is the most powerful commercially available oral anabolic. So we can go into that now if you want or wherever.
yeah. We'll go into that. But you know what? You hit the nail right on the head because that wasn't my generation. I'm Gen X. I'm 48 years old.
Yeah,
So,
I'm 20. I'm 28. I just turned 28, so I'm a little bit younger.
yeah, my generation was I want everybody wanted to be the biggest, strongest motherfucker in the gym. It was Dorian Yates was Mr. Olympia, Ronnie
Oh, yeah,
Coleman was Mr. Olympia, Schwarzenegger was in every movie. The gyms it was hardcore. It was in
yeah,
yeah. You
yeah. And that
fucking nailed it.
and the information out was what you want to be the biggest, most jacked person and use. We'll just say orals only. It's going to be what Anadrol. That's all the information.
Yeah.
Anadrol
The
or maybe Dianabol.
yeah. The information we had was a book called the Anabolic Reference Guide, I believe it was called.
Yeah, and I've heard about that too. Yep.
And then we would literally we would pass it around the gym. Like I would read it, I would give it to somebody else, somebody would read it, give it to, that was basically our and then talking to people that knew what they were talking
Yeah.
about, right? That was basically we didn't have the internet, but that was basically what happened. But you fucking nailed it. I didn't even think of that. All right, so I competed 4 different times and I've used pretty much everything but insulin. And I've used plenty of orals, right, throughout my life. It's I've used Anavar several times, but what's funny to me is that, and this is just my experience, a lot of times it's the individual's body and how they react to the anabolics because I never got a great result from Anavar. I never got a great result from Anadrol. I never got a great result from Winnie tabs. I had good, decent results, but I always got the best results either from Dianabol or Turinabol, right?
Okay.
So if anybody asks me, I always say, you kind of have to figure out what works well for you. Obviously, the basics, testosterone is testosterone. You're gonna need that no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I was always under the impression and the information that I always got that basically Anavar was a very light oral. That's something that girls could use in moderation,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And your studies tell you the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, okay. I just want to touch on the studies, but I want to go right
Yeah.
away to the real world because a study you look at the studies on Halo test and that should be the best thing since sliced bread, right?
Yeah,
Guess
yeah,
what? It's
that's
not.
yes, you're right.
It's not. So
Yeah.
here's the thing: is that if we compare things like if we compare Anadrol to Dianabol, but then also Anavar specifically then to either Anadrol or Dianabol, guess what we see? Milligram per milligram, we're talking like 20 milligrams to 50 and yeah, what is it? 20 to is it 100? I think that they went up to 100 or 150. What do we see? We see we see, we'll confer, I want to talk about just real quick, Dianabol to Anadrol. We see, guess what? Milligram per milligram, we see better results in total from what? Anadrol over Dianabol. And then the interesting thing is when we take Anavar versus Anadrol, guess what? It way outperforms that in terms of muscle mass. So the thing is that, and these are at around the dosages of 20 milligrams per 20 milligrams kind of thing. And you might say, well, hang on a second. Well, how's that play out in the real world? And I'll tell you this is that I have somewhere in my closet, I haven't dug them out. I should probably just dump them, but I don't want to. But in my closet, I have from the pharmacy with the doctor's prescription, Dianabol, pharmacy Dianabol and pharmacy Anavar in my closet. And, I'm probably, honestly, I don't think I'm ever going to use them again. So I should just get rid of them, but I almost don't because that's the best thing. Like, I mean, that's, like I said, it's the best stuff you can get, as it is. But I've used all this stuff before, and it's like, I'll tell you one thing is that I don't know if I just don't remember what it's like, using, stuff that's not pharmaceutical grade or what, but I'll tell you this, 10 milligrams of Anavar from the pharmacy kicks Dianabol's butt out of the park. The people that are like Kevin Levrone or these other people, because you used to be able to go to your doctor and get the stuff written, no problem. And now you can still get the stuff written if you know what clinics to go to and part of your HRT regimen, what have you. That's a whole nother conversation. But the thing is, you talk to guys like Kevin Levrone or these other guys, these guys were, even Dorian Yates took Anavar, right? He liked Dianabol better, but that we'll talk. That's another conversation too. But at least for me comparing, pharma from the pharmacy Dianabol versus Anavar just blew me up like nobody's business.
Okay.
And it's really, really interesting that, and I got to tell you this too, is that here's a huge issue. A lot of the Anavar, if it's not from the pharmacy or if it's you're overseas and you're not getting it from, either the pharmacy or your doctor, the huge problem is that a lot of the Anavar that you get is actually Winstrol. You know why? Because it's so much cheaper to produce.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a huge, huge thing. And, whether this applied to me earlier on or not, I don't know. But the stuff I tell you, the real Anavar from the doctor's office versus Dianabol or Anadrol is completely just mind blowing. I mean, 10 to 20 milligrams of this stuff is like you feel your heart going all of a sudden. You're in the I'm in the gym parking lot. I feel my heart going. I start sweating. This stuff is ridiculously potent. And also in the studies, what do we see? And there's nothing that can compete with Anavar for ripping off body fat. It's a DHT derivative. DHT is what binds onto not only, gives you your facial hair and all these other stuff such as acne, and the list goes on, right? But the DHT, since it's a DHT derivative, it binds extremely potently to what? Your fat cells, adipose tissue. Your adipose cells have not only an HGH receptor site, and that's why it works so well for burning fat, but guess what it also has? It has a DHT, an androgen receptor site. So DHTs by nature, DHT derivatives, Anadrol, Masteron, Anavar, they're already by nature powerful fat burners, but Anavar rips off body fat like nobody's business. I can send you a study I was looking over on 60-year-old men. They were gave the 60-year-old men 20 milligrams of Anavar. Muscle shoots up, fat rips off like nobody's business. It's crazy. And so there's nothing like Anavar for building muscle or burning fat. The issue is the people that are, getting the stuff off the street or from Mexico, I don't care, China. It's most of the stuff has got to be Winstrol, just like, we've heard before. It's cheaper, so why not?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I tell people this all the time that just to be safe, I mean, you could buy test kits now. Dave Palumbo sells Roy test, and I bought it. I have it. And you basically put a drop or a piece of the oral into a solution, and it's color coordinated, and you can tell if it's real or not, so on and so forth. So at least when you, wherever you get it from, you know exactly what's putting in your body. So if you get Anavar or Trenbolone and you got it for a great price, at the very least, test it because it's probably not real.
Yeah, and do this too if you're going to go that route. I tell everybody, not just because I'm plugged into a clinic, but I tell you this too because heavy metals is a whole nother subject. We don't have to go into that now. But the thing is that if you're gonna go that route and not get your stuff through a pharmacy, whether it's mine or pharmacies in Nevada, California, or Florida, a lot of them will say, oh, we can include Dianabol, Anavar, Winstrol with part of your testosterone replacement. Okay, a lot of them can do that now. All
Really?
right, that's how I got, that's how I was able to legally get my scripts. But if you're not going to go that route, that's fine. You're an adult, you choose what you want to do, regardless
Sure.
where you live in the world. But the thing is, if you're going to go that route, not only do what he's telling you to do, but also test your Anavar for not only Anavar. Okay, it shows up it has Anavar. Test it also for Winstrol, because guess what? If it comes back and it says, oh yeah, there's Anavar in it, and then you test it for Winstrol, guess what? There's also Winstrol in it. You know that
Yeah.
something's going on there. So do that too if you're going to do that.
Okay. Staying on the topic of orals, why do certain orals destroy your appetite? Because I've noticed that I think it's dose related. That's my guess. But I've noticed in the past, if I've ever used Anadrol, specifically Anadrol, especially when you get to like 50 milligrams or more, it just kills your appetite. It almost makes you feel sick when you're going to eat.
Yeah, and I can actually answer this question really well because
Go
I've
ahead.
taken pharmaceutical Anadrol, and I noticed the same thing you do. You go from 25 to 50 to, maybe I've taken even higher than that, right?
Yeah.
And I wasn't supposed to, but
Yeah.
the thing is, you notice dose dependent. Guess what? It's harder to get food down, right? And here's the thing people don't understand. I want to, because I can address this for you perfectly. Thankfully, I can address this because I used to wonder this as well. Okay, so the first thing you have is obvious liver toxicity, right? Liver buildup. You have this with any drug. Whether you're popping, I don't care if you're taking valerian root, which is actually a supplement, valerian root, oral melatonin, ibuprofen. What is other stuff people popping up? Allergy medication, even. All
Mhm.
this stuff has to go through your liver, and each one has a different tolerance or a different buildup rate of liver toxicity. We know AST, ALT gets jacked up, right? Regardless. But all this stuff has to pass through your stupid liver, right? Okay,
Mhm.
so in the terms of Anadrol, let's compare Anadrol to Dianabol real quick. There is absolutely zero speculation, zero question based on what we see, and you can confirm this. You can go talk to the doctor if you want it from HRT, but if you want to confirm this too, I don't care. But here's the thing: is that comparing dose dependent milligram per milligram Dianabol versus Anadrol, right?
Mhm.
Anadrol is way easier on the liver than Dianabol milligram per milligram. But we give
Really?
it, yes, milligram per milligram, it's so much less strain on the liver toxicity, everything. Milligram per milligram, Anadrol versus
Deal.
Dianabol. Anadrol is even easier than Anavar and Winstrol. Except what do you see with Anadrol? People take way higher dosages. You're not going to find somebody taking 150 milligrams of Anavar or
Right.
Dianabol.
Yeah. Right.
You will have people commonly taking 150 milligrams. So milligram per milligram, right? Anadrol has a very low toxicity, but because of that, people jack how much they're taking. So going back to your appetite thing, I want to first say this. So people speculate, oh, it's because your liver's getting hit. You can't eat as much. Well, if you're not taking that much, well, what? Okay, if you're not taking that much, let's say you or I or whoever's taking 25, 50, but guess what? We still notice the appetite issue, right? Even at
Mhm.
50, you don't have it. So saying, oh, my liver toxicity is building up, and that's the reason I can't eat. No, that's not exactly true. There's more to the story. What people don't address with the liver, and this is even besides blood pressure, right? Anadrol, notorious, it's going to jack your blood pressure up just like you're taking high doses of test. But that's
Mhm.
not really why the appetite thing either. What we actually find, and this is, guys, listen up. Whoever's watching this, listen up. What we find is that each anabolic steroid, oral anabolic steroid, guess what? Affects your digestive enzymes different. What does that mean? It means depending on what oral anabolic you take, your liver might have to work harder, produce different bile, produce different digestive enzymes, and work harder trying to break this substance down. So
Mhm.
what we find is that yeah, the liver thing can play a small part of can or I don't want to say, if somebody's taking 150 milligrams, oh, this isn't going to happen. But the liver thing, the liver toxicity, yeah, that's going to play a role. But also, depending on what oral you take, and the same as medicine in the real world, it can be a harder strain on your liver depending on how your liver is trying to break it down in terms of enzymes and also digestive bile from either the kidney or from the pancreas. So that's interesting too.
Ah, okay. That makes a lot more sense. I actually had,
Like, let me give your viewers an even easier explanation. If you eat a steak, right? You eat a lean steak. Guess what? The digestive enzymes and bile that are going to have to be activated and released are completely different than if I go and I eat what? A bowl of oatmeal, right? It's the same sort of thing, but not as extreme, if that makes sense.
right. So then is Anadrol even worth it if you need to eat to put size on?
I'm going to argue that there's better options. I mean, because the thing is, most people taking Anadrol aren't just looking to put size on. A lot of the people popping Anadrol are what? Powerlifters,
Yeah, that's
strongmen.
true. Yeah.
They don't just care about, they want more muscle, but guess what? They want more weight. They want the water retention. They want the water retention. They want the weight. Sure, they're going to take some extra muscle. They want the muscle, but guess what correlates to strength the most in terms of ease? Weight.
Right,
okay, it's a lot easier
right.
for me to squat 500 if I'm 250 versus 220, and I'll tell you that from personal experience, right?
Right, agreed.
So it comes down to the weight as well. So in terms of answering the question, guess what? Yeah, Anadrol. If you want to throw some weight on real fast for a powerlifting comp or strongman comp or maybe a YouTube PR or something, yeah, you do it. But if long term, you got to get that food down. You want to jack your weight up. I think there's better options.
Yeah, I fully agree. I don't think now, it gets to the point where it's kind of like I'm at the point in my life, well, I really don't do basically all I kind of do is test and growth now. I don't really mess with anything else because I'm 48.
Yeah, and that's all you need. That's all you really need.
Yep. I agree. I agree. But I don't even think it's necessary to use orals, even when you're into, training and competing and so on and so forth. I think the injectables do more than enough. The Masteron, the Trenbolone that you want to do before a contest and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I don't think that orals are really as necessary as people think they are, right?
Yeah.
I want to sidestep a little bit and ask you before we get into I want to get into Trenbolone a little bit because you got a lot of experience with Tren from what you said, right?
Yeah. Why I wanted to talk about this now, I don't know per se. Maybe part of the reason is I want to keep my channel I can have fun, do stuff, but I want to keep my channel as professional as possible.
Right.
And I'm also going to try to, I'm going to let loose right now on your podcast, which obviously you said that's fine. But I want to also tell people two things here. Okay. Because I work for a professional hormone replacement clinic. So I have to be careful how I say things as well, no matter what. Okay. I'm going to loosen up here a bit. So here's the punchline, guys. With Trenbolone, you should not ever use Trenbolone. And I'm going to tell you why. I am probably arguably the most credible person to ever make that statement.
Okay, good.
Because maybe, just maybe, I have used more Trenbolone than probably any person on planet Earth. Okay. All right.
Okay.
So the story I'm about to tell you now, and I'm going to explain why to all your viewers, whoever ends up watching this, I'm going to explain to you why. So listen, don't go anywhere. Listen to what I'm about to say. There's a reason I'm telling you never, ever use Trenbolone at any dosage. Not only because I'm going to tell you about some crazy, what we see happening in the brain with Tren, and I've talked about this in my videos, Trenbolone directly, not indirectly, Trenbolone directly kills. It's called apoptosis, where the cells kill themselves. This happens directly in your brain when you take Trenbolone. Obviously, it's dose dependent and how long you do it. But what we know already from the Chinese, Derek from More Plates, More Dates, you probably know who that is. He covered this too. But I'm going to get into my story in a second. But what we know right now, Trenbolone directly kills cells in your hippocampus. And for the people that don't know what the hippocampus is, that's what converts your short-term to your long-term memory. So maybe you need that. Okay, so let me get into this. So again, I work for a professional clinic. I have to be careful how I say things. But So this may or may not have happened. Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that and let your
Hmm.
viewers decide what they're going to do. But this may or may not have happened. Maybe, I live pretty close to Canada. And, if you live in the US, you just show your driver's license and you can go into Canada and do whatever you want. And guess what? Anabolic steroids are, for the most part, correct. If you live in Canada and I'm using the wrong terminology, please correct me, use whatever. But basically in Canada, you get caught with heroin, anabolics, whatever. They pretty much don't care. Okay. Depending on where you live, you can almost do whatever you want. Canada's crazy, right? But
Yeah.
anyway, so there might have been a time, right? I'm 20, 22, somewhere in that time frame. And I said, you know what? I don't care if it kills me. I want to know, how far can I take the human body? Really, I wanted to know, how far can I take the human body?
Yeah.
So, I may have or I may not have decided I'm going to take 2,100 milligrams of Trenbolone acetate every week. Okay. I decided I'm going to swap out testosterone and take 2,100 milligrams of Trenbolone acetate per week.
You may be out of your fucking mind.
But when you're 20 to 22 years old,
Yeah,
and you
no,
think,
I didn't even do that at 20 to 22 years old.
if you're, hypothetically speaking, if you're 20, right?
Yeah.
If you're 20 to 22 years old, and you want to, I might have been crazier than Boston Lloyd, but I'll let people decide whatever they want on that aspect. But when you're that old and you say, I want to know how crazy how far you can take the human body, and I want to know for myself, right? And I also thought, yeah, okay, we'll just go down the tunnel. We'll just keep going down the tunnel. So what I decided to do was 2,100 milligrams Trenbolone acetate per week. For over 4 weeks, I did this. Okay. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you this right now, and you can start your podcast with this or give a snippet if you want. I did that. And guess what? My body was eating itself alive. Okay. What do I mean by that? When you take every single androgen receptor site, we'll get into the brain in a second, but when you take, because I'm still suffering a little bit of the effects, okay, in terms of sleep and other stuff, we'll forget the brain for a second. When you decide to take 2,100 milligrams of Trenbolone acetate per week, right? Okay. And also, guys, in the position I was in too, I had access to send this stuff to labs to verify the potency. Okay. That's a whole other thing, but we'll get into that later. But what happened when I decided to do this was what? My body was literally eating itself. Okay. When you take every single androgen receptor in your body, which can obviously be covered by 2,100 milligrams, we didn't know that already from testosterone. Mm-hmm. Guess what happens? And you say, okay, I'm going to fill every receptor site and I'm going to take Trenbolone, which is 5 times more potent than testosterone, right? And just by the way, guys, as we see it on paper, yeah, that's how it is in the real world. And anybody who's taken Tren can attest to that, unfortunately, right? But when you did that, what happened was, it didn't matter what I ate. It didn't matter what I ate. Didn't matter what I did. At that dosage, my body ate itself. Okay. You know why? Because no matter how much you're eating or what you're doing, your body cannot assimilate that much protein and get that many nutrients. Okay. And not only that, but I was also trying to lean out a little bit too, which is probably adds to the stupidity a little bit. But what ends up happening is you're telling your body, just create more muscle, protein synthesis. And guess what happens? Whether you're eating a ton or not, your body can't meet that demand. So what ends up happening? Your body does something called, I'm going to have trouble pronouncing this. It's autophagy. I could spell it for you. It's hard for me to pronounce for some reason.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, basically what your body does is it breaks down older cells and breaks down other cells in your body to give yourself nutrients for what? For body function. So what happened is when I decided to do this, I'm going to call it 2,100, milligram Trenbolone ACE experiment. My body was literally eating itself apart where, I got so shredded. My face got just, you could see the striations all, just everywhere. My bicep was splitting in like 10 different places. You see all the fibers. You turn around to look at your glutes, just absolutely just, lines coming up your butt. But I looked like something out of Alien
Yeah.
versus, yeah, I looked like something out of Alien versus Predator. And it's probably good that the phone I was using at the time got, accidentally broken or smashed in or whatever have you. Because, if I show people pictures, there might be some people that say, man, I want to look like that. You don't want to look like that. All right. So I'll pause for a second now. I've been talking for a little bit and let you,
That's okay.
interject anything.
Yeah, a couple of things. No, first of all, I mean, like, I don't know. Well, I I never had a I never had an addictive personality. So anytime I competed, and my coach would say, use this much, that's what I would use, right? And I never had I never had the drive to say, I want to use more and more. More is better. More is better. It was never my mentality. And I guess, if you're have that mentality, that's what you're gonna do. Or if you do it for some kind of strange science experiment that you kind of maybe did. But the other thing is like, look, man, if I take 10,000 milligrams of aspirin every day, I'm going to have these crazy fucking side effects, I'm sure. Right. But if I take the two that are necessary, then it's going to do what I need done. And you could plug that drug into any situation. You take way too much of a pharmaceutical or any pharmaceutical, and you're going to have incredible, crazy side effects. But if you take the dose that you need to take or a moderate dose, then odds are you're not going to have these crazy, crazy, crazy side effects. I mean, you could literally stick vitamin C in that category if you wanted to. So, I'm going to push back a little bit, and
Please, yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to say, I think and here we go. I'm going to preface this by saying nobody should. I am not promoting the use of anabolics. This video is for educational purposes only. Okay. As a matter of fact, I don't think anybody should use any of the things we're talking about unless you go to a lab, a TRT clinic like you work for, and be under a doctor's care. That's completely different. It's legal, and you're under a doctor's care. I think it's foolish just to start injecting stuff that you order online from China or something like that. I absolutely agree with that. But um, I don't think you're going to have these crazy side effects if you use it in moderation with a limited amount of time. And I'm saying that from my own experience, right? I
Yeah.
haven't, Tren is really the only anabolic that I've used in the past, and I've used it moderate. I think the most I've ever used for Tren in a week was like 300 milligrams of Tren Ace, right, when I was competing. And basically, the worst side effect I had that I could tell, because it was only like a 6 week period, was, the sweats, the night sweats, just
Mhm.
waking up in a pool of sweat, right? Uh, but answer me something like that. What I'm saying is, I think everything is clearly dose related, and I don't think it has to do with pharmaceutical of anabolics alone. I think you could pretty much plug
Yeah.
anything into that, and it's dose
Yeah.
related.
Yeah, let me give you my answer, and
Yeah,
then we'll let the people decide whatever they want to believe, right?
sure, sure.
So let me just state this with, because we're on the same train, maybe not agreeing in terms of anabolics. But we're on the same train. I heard you say before you believe all you need is what, test and GH, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so we're on the same train, maybe for different reasons. But let me state why, because you're right about the thing is, yeah, you take too much vitamin C, burn a hole in your stomach. Too much aspirin, you're going to thin out your blood, you're going to die. So let me state this first and foremost, is that we can take things like cyanide, arsenic, or what, lead, I don't care. And right, if it's only a small enough amount, right, there might be no noticeable side effects unless you do
Hmm.
it for a really long time, right? So I understand what you're saying with that. Now, the reason I tell people the thing is, don't ever, and I'm gonna make this statement. I personally, I do not think any person should take any anabolic steroid, legal or not legal, with a prescription, without a prescription, other than testosterone and also HGH. It's not an anabolic steroid, but in terms of performance enhancement. Now, there's a
Yeah.
reason why I say this. And it's the same reason that I tell people not to use the stupid SARMs. Okay. Okay. In fact, it's could be, I can make the argument that a lot of anabolics are safer than SARMs. You know why? Because we have no clue of the long term. We have more of the
That's
long
right. There's not studies made on
we have
it.
more
That's
long
right.
term data on Anadrol,
Right.
Anavar, Winstrol, because they've been prescribed for anemia and all these other conditions, AIDS, for way longer. We have way more long term data than these SARMs, which have just come out of nowhere, and they've only done animal studies with a lot of them. Okay,
Right.
so we have no clue. But the reason why I tell people, I'll address the Trenbolone and then I'll address what I just said first.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I tell people never use Trenbolone, no matter at what any dosage. Maybe you can get away with up to a certain dosage for how long and what have you. The reason I tell people never to use Trenbolone is because even at dosages way lower than what I may have crazily insanely done, is
Mm-hmm.
because just what we just start with. I'm going to touch on two things that we know are fact. I'm not going to speculate here. The two things that we know is that Trenbolone, even at way lower dosages than what I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
has a distinct direct effect just because of the Trenbolone molecule. For some reason, it tells the neurons, guys. That's what how you think, right? It tells the neurons in the hippocampus to create cell or to cause cell death. Now, why this is, I have to check back into the Chinese that ran this study. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is that for some reason, Trenbolone, just the molecule, aggravates the neurons in the hippocampus and makes them die. Now, yes, if it's at a really low dosage, is there going to be less? Of course. Is if it's for shorter periods, is it going to be less? Of course. But in terms of the brain, I'm going to tell you, in terms of the brain, I would not touch it. And that's the same reason I tell people, I'm not your doctor, but I'm going to tell everybody, you shouldn't use statins. Okay, statins have tremendous detrimental effects on your brain, guess what? Your doctor is not going to tell you this about statins as well. If they give people, listen to this, John. If they
Mm-hmm.
give people too many statins, they can cause dementia and Alzheimer's in healthy
Really?
people. Let me say that again. If
Wow.
if you take too many statins, if you up your dose of statins enough, or you take certain kinds of statins, you can trigger Alzheimer's and dementia in healthy people.
Wow.
Okay.
So for people who don't know, explain what
Yeah.
statins are.
Two ways. Statins basically lower your cholesterol.
Right.
Now they're designed to lower both. They're designed to lower mainly the LDL, but guess what? Statins are kind of indiscriminate. They're gonna, their better ones can lower more LDL than HDL, but regardless, statins by nature make you produce less LDL, which is supposedly bad cholesterol, even though our
Mm-hmm.
body makes them to do what? Basically recreate every cell in the human body. Your body can resynthesize skin cells, kidneys, organs, muscle tissue, everything in your human body. The reason we need cholesterol is to resynthesize those cells. And that's also, guys, why we find this is proven in medical studies. And even if we didn't have the medical studies, guess what? What is muscle tissue, brain tissue, every tissue in your body, guess what it's made out of? Protein and cholesterol. So we see in studies, guess what? The higher cholesterol, the more muscle mass you produce, the faster you recover from exercise. Your doctor won't tell you that. You can type that in, cholesterol muscle building study, pop that into Google, you'll see what they did in Texas. They were shocked. Whoa, more cholesterol. Guess what? They built muscle faster. Why?
Yeah.
Guess what a muscle tissue is made out of? Protein and cholesterol.
Right.
Guess what this stupid, okay, I don't want to get off too far off rant,
That's
but
okay.
guess what they used to say? Anabolic steroids don't build muscle. And guess what they also used to say? You don't need more than X amount of protein to build muscle. Guess what we find? The more protein you eat, the faster you build muscle. The more
Yeah.
cholesterol you eat, the more muscle you build. Guess what?
Right.
The more steroids you take, the more muscle you build. And then you have these same stupid doctors running hormone replacement clinics saying, well, guess what? As long as your testosterone's in the range, it doesn't matter for muscle building. Dude,
Yeah,
if your
that's not true.
testosterone's at 300 versus 1,200,
Yeah,
which is
big
top
difference.
of the range, guess what the difference is? Humongous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no,
Not
that's
only
true.
that, but if you want to be a smart aleck and talk about studies, we have the 600 milligram testosterone study. They gave people 125 milligrams testosterone cypionate. They gave them 300 and they gave them 600. Guess what? Regardless of training, diet, anything else, the more testosterone they gave him, guess what? The more muscle they had.
Yeah.
So it's just like I could rip my hair out with some of this stuff. But going back to your cholesterol thing with the statins can directly, if we take John here, John, you don't seem like you're stupid and you don't have dementia or Alzheimer's,
Sometimes.
right? But if we gave John either a certain type of statin or we just cranked up the statins, we can give John dementia or Alzheimer's. Why? Because if you take statins to lower your cholesterol, they have some that cross the blood-brain barrier, get into your brain, and basically drastically lower the cholesterol in your brain. And by the way, for the people that don't know, your brain is made 70% of cholesterol. And that's why these vegan nuts, these vegan crazies, whatever you want to eat, that's fine. If you want to get, I don't think people should destroy their bodies, but if you want to eat nothing but grass and do that, that's up to you. But the thing is that you have these crazy vegans who give their babies, they refuse to give their babies cholesterol and fats. Guess what we find? They die. Or they have mental retardation and stuff. You know why? This is scientific fact. The brain is 60 to 70% cholesterol. So what happens if you remove all fat and cholesterol? Your body struggles to make cholesterol to not only build your muscles, build your muscle tissue, your connective tissue, your organs, but also your brain. So what we find is if we give John statins, even if we don't give him the ones that cross the blood-brain barrier, if I decide, hey, John, take this crazy dose of statins, guess what? We can lower the cholesterol so low that his body can't even repair his brain tissue, and we can trigger dementia and Alzheimer's. And that's a whole nother thing, whether they're doing this on purpose too. I'm not a crazy conspiracy nut, but you think about this and you say, could some people theoretically do this on purpose to, put people into nursing homes and, cause all sorts of other health issues? You could. Am I saying they are doing that? I'm not saying they're doing that, but they could. Okay. So this is crazy. People don't know this stuff either. So,
yeah, no, it is. You're a wealth of knowledge, man. You truly are, because I don't know. I didn't know half the stuff that you're telling me, especially about the statins and especially about the vegan stuff. I hate shitty parents. Like shitty parents annoyed the shit out of me because, me and my wife wanted kids, and that's a whole other story. And then when I run into a shitty parent, it fucking drives me crazy. But anyway, I'm only going to touch on a couple more topics, man. I don't want to keep it too long. But I got to ask this one. Tren cough, why? And have we figured out why it happens? And why does it only happen with tren acetate? Because that's what it seems to be.
Okay. Yeah. I want to answer this question real quick too. So this is addressing any injectable oral steroid. Okay. You can get tren cough from anything you inject, especially the oil-based steroids. Why? Or I'll say pretty much exclusively the oil-based steroids. You know why? Because and this happened to me with testosterone. Okay. I have a testosterone script along with everything else, but here's the thing is that when you inject, especially if you're using these daggers, I don't use that either. When I inject my testosterone, I either use a 29 gauge insulin syringe, half inch, 29 gauge half inch, or if I'm doing, and that's for every other day injections, or if I'm injecting every day, I'll use a 30 gauge 5/16. There's no scar tissue. You're basically never in a vein. And guess what? You feel way better. And there's less pain. But we can talk about that later in a second. Let me address your question. If you're injecting any oil-based anabolic steroid, testosterone, DECA, equipoise, everything but basically oral Winstrol or Anadrol or whatever have you. The issue is, right, everybody's probably done this at least once. You go, and it doesn't matter even if it's tren, you can give yourself tren cough by what? You go through the skin, and guess what happened? This is how I got tren cough from testosterone. I was using a longer needle, like the doctors tell you, right? But you go through the skin, through the fat tissue, and guess what? You go through either a small capillary or you go through a vein, and guess what? You pull back on the syringe, and that's a whole nother thing. Guess what they're telling you to do? Guess what they're telling you right here in the United States right now? You don't have to aspirate when you give vaccines anymore. Okay, that's a whole nother thing in regards to COVID and people dropping dead with vaccine. Well, that's a whole nother thing. So I'm going to answer your question first. But when you do that, right, you go through a vein or small capillary or whatever, and you pull back in the syringe. Oh, there's no blood. You're good, right? You do the injection. and you pull out, well, whatever capillary or vein, or hopefully it didn't go through an artery, but when you go back, some of that gets into the vein, artery, capillary, what have you. And guess what? The oil gets in your bloodstream, and guess what? You cough it up, it comes out in your lungs. You have the notorious feeling of sand or ants crawling around in your lungs. So what's giving you the trend cough? Why is it this happen? This can happen with any oral anabolic, but guess what? Whenever you take trend, this happens. Sometimes rarely it doesn't, but why does it happen with Trenbolone? I'm going to tell you, I've looked around, I've tried to figure this out, and the best information I can give people is what? Is that it's not the oil, it's not the solvents, because all the, whatever carrier oil, no, it's the same thing. It's not the benzyl alcohol, it's not the benzobenzenate. What happens is it's got to be the Trenbolone molecule, because it happens with acetate and enanthate. Okay. Typically a little bit more with the acetate, but it happens with the enanthate too. So why? We know we take everything out. We take the carrier oil out, the benzyl alcohol, the benzenate. Guess what? It comes down to the molecule. The Trenbolone molecule, for some reason, and this happens with testosterone, John, and DECA too. Even when you pull back, even if you haven't went through anything, you're always going to have a little bit that gets into systemic circulation right away. It's just going to happen. Anytime you go through the skin, you're going to have a little bit that is going to jump into the bloodstream.
Right.
This amount is super tiny, but guess what? This happens regardless. Anytime you're going to go through it, you're going to have a little bit that gets into systemic circulation right away. That's just because you're going through the skin and going through the muscle. That's just going to happen. Okay, so with Trenbolone, it comes down to the Trenbolone molecule itself. Now, Trenbolone is obviously a what? It's a 19-nor derivative anabolic steroid. This doesn't happen with DECA, though, right? So we know that this is specific to Trenbolone. It has to be. There's no other explanation. So this Trenbolone, this modified 19-nor, we find that this does what? Even that the minuscule amount, and this happens with testosterone injections too, like I just described, but that teeny, minuscule amount, when that gets into the bloodstream, that's enough to cause the lungs what? To cause irritation, to cause that sand or ants. It feels like sand or like ants in your lungs, and cause you to pack your thing. Now, guess what? You notice sometimes it's way worse, and sometimes it's not as bad. Right. Sometimes it's terrible. You're going to drop on the floor, even if the amount's the same, even if everything's the same. Sometimes you get a little irritation.
Right, exactly.
And sometimes you're going to drop on the floor and wait for the ambulance.
Yeah, that's the truth. Yeah.
So this should prove my point, my hypothesis pretty well, that guess what? Since it happens sometimes a little bit, and sometimes it happens really bad, what does that mean? That means that sometimes, even if you aspirate, sometimes it's getting in a little bit more, gets into systemic, and sometimes a little bit less. So this shows us that the irritation is not anything else but the Trenbolone molecule itself is inflammatory in the lung tissue. Now, why? I wish I could answer that, but I also can't answer, John, why is it Trenbolone versus these other anabolics that causes the cells, not anywhere else in the brain as far as we see, but why is Trenbolone for some reason make the cells in the hippocampus kill themselves? That's what apoptosis is, programmed cell death. Why is that? Guess what? I can't answer that.
Yeah, right.
But we see it happen with Trenbolone. That's why I tell people don't take Tren. Even at no matter what dosage, you can decide whatever you're going to do. You're an adult, do whatever you want. I'm not telling you to do that, but you can do whatever you want, right? Vote for who you want, you do what you want. But we see that with Trenbolone. I don't know why Trenbolone only in the hippocampus tells your cells, the neurons, to kill themselves. Just like I don't know why, with Trenbolone, with the molecule itself, whether a little teeny bit gets in the bloodstream or even a little bit more, depending on if you went through, depending on how much blood flow to that particular area. Because you'll notice this, John, too, is that depending where you inject in the human body with Trenbolone, if you inject in your glutes, you're more likely to get a bad Tren clot than if you inject somewhere like, we'll just say, your calves or somewhere where there's less blood flow. People will notice that too, is that if you inject in your glutes, especially in your glutes where there's a humongous blood flow, to your upper glutes, you're way more likely to get Tren cough than if you do an injection, somewhere where there's less veins and somewhere where there's less blood flow, thus again proving my point. Now, why this happens, I don't exactly know, but we know the Trenbolone molecule agitates the lung tissue. So I'll leave it at that.
You're a wealth of knowledge, man, and you know what you're saying makes 100% sense because I have yet to figure out what it is. And anytime I ask somebody like yourself, that's the best answer I've ever gotten so far. Put it that way.
Hey, well, I'm happy to hear that. I want to tell you and your viewers this real quick too, because this is whether you're doing anabolics or whether you're getting the stuff through the clinic, because you probably know this, in the United States, you can get testosterone and DECA or DECA with your prescription, whether you go through my clinic or not, or whether no matter where you live. This is some issue. This is a huge problem we find with 19 nor anabolic steroids. So Trenbolone and DECA, also known as Nandrolone. For some
Mm.
reason, 19 nor, DECA, Trenbolone, or even Ment falls into that category of 19 nors. For some reason, we find that this also has a now this was done in cell cultures. This was done, not in actual people. Probably a good thing. But what we
Mm.
found is milligram per milligram DECA, and also this could be applied to 19 nors as Trenbolone and Ment. But we find for some reason 19 nors, even Ment and DECA, not just Tren, but we find that this was done with Nandrolone DECA. But we find that for some reason the endothelium, the small layer that wraps around our arteries, that's what we want to
Mm.
keep healthy so we don't build plaque. For some reason, it affected the endothelium in a negative way 10 times, 10 to 11 times worse than testosterone. So
Mm.
even I tell people, whether you have a script or you can get DECA from my clinic. And I'm going to tell you I don't recommend it because what we see already early on is that things like Nandrolone, Trenbolone, and Ment greatly up to 10 to 11 times. Maybe it's less in the real world. I don't know. But the point is proven that any 19 nor is way worse on your arteries than just regular testosterone. Now, why
Yeah.
that is, I don't know either. I don't know
Right.
why it is either. So
You
I just
know,
want to tell people that too.
another thing you can do, especially if you're over 40 like me, like you
Yeah.
be, um, is go to a goddamn cardiologist and check yourself out. Get blood work done. Now that I'm over 40, I go to a cardiologist once a year. Make sure
Yeah.
everything is cool, and then you don't have to worry about it so much. I'm not saying, go to a cardiologist after 40 no matter what, right? But and thanks for showing the gun show, by the way. That was pretty cool.
I do that on all my videos. I do that anyway. So I just
I
like
actually noticed on the thumbnail a couple of times. I want to touch on one topic, man, and I'll let you go because I know. First of all, I got to have you back because you're a wealth of knowledge. Seriously,
yeah.
I can't. I would need 10 hours to talk to you about everything. Um,
Problem. This is my life. I live, breathe this nutrition, training, hormones. So yeah, and you can ask your viewers, poll your viewers, or ask people at the gym. I don't care. Get a list together and then run back whatever you want. I'd be happy to.
oh, that'd be great. Okay. The craze now, especially with women, is these weight loss drugs like Ozempic. Have you studied any of these? Or do you know any about any of these things?
I know a little bit about Ozempic. I will say right off the bat, I'm going to admit, I know the basics on Ozempic, but I haven't looked into all the negatives thoroughly, like I have with
Okay.
anabolics and all this other stuff.
Okay. Well, why don't you give us the basics on Ozempic because that's another question. People don't seem to know how it actually makes you lose weight.
Yeah, let me start with this real quick because this will be interesting for me as well. Okay, tell
Hmm.
people tell people from at least your side, maybe what you heard at the gym or what have you, what you think, at least what you or what people have told you about Ozempic. Like from your side, what are you hearing about Ozempic?
Well, from what I heard about Ozempic, it's basically a diabetic drug, and for some strange reason, it makes you lose weight. But from what I understand, they don't know exactly how it makes you lose weight. And then from what I understand, it burns muscle as far as and as well as fat. But these girls, they're just jumping on it like nobody's business, and it's like if you just my attitude is like, I mean, they're not even trying to work out a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
They're not even
No, no, that's
trying. It is I want results now, no matter what. And it's like, well, if you maybe if you went to the gym a little bit, maybe if you cleaned up your diet, maybe you would have some kind of result, but they don't even want to do that. They just hear about this drug and they jump on it. And it's a relatively new drug from what I understand. So that's as much as I know about it.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, if you have me on whatever time, I'll run that back and give you a breakdown. But before I say something stupid, what I'm gonna at least pull up is I'm gonna check right now what class of drugs it is, so I don't mix this up with. I was talking to what's that other one that's hit the market? It's a famous appetite suppressant. It kills people's appetite so that they basically they can't even eat, almost like smoking. So, oh yeah, it's the semaglutide. Oh no, so I guess I do know a little bit more about this than.
Oh, good.
That's a good thing. No, this is Ozempic is the semaglutide peptide. Oh, okay. Okay, well, I was thinking, oh, I need to get back to you on this. I'm not, I'm not as much studied up on this as all the stuff, the Trenbolone, the testosterone, the hormones, but this does fall into the peptide category, which I'm happy to talk about too. So with Ozempic, which is the brand name, what is this chemical? This is the peptide semaglutide. So now this is interesting because one of my clients, I'm not going to name him, but I was talking to him, and when I started working with him, he's out of Texas. But when I started working with him, he was taking exactly what you're talking about, semaglutide, and that's what you say Ozempic. I'm thinking, okay, is this the stimulant? Is this it's a stimulant based drug that people are taking to reduce appetite, or is this the peptide? Well, no, this is referring to semaglutide. So that's that semaglutide craze that John is talking about, that people are taking to do what? Kill appetite, right? So first and foremost, in terms of muscle mass loss, because that most of the people watching your show, this is going to be related to muscle mass. So in terms of muscle mass loss, this peptide is not going to directly cause muscle mass loss, as far as I know. I'll double check on this and come back to you. But as far as I know, this is not going to cause muscle loss directly. Why? Because it's basically a copy or a mimic of GLP, which is what released by the small intestine to basically slow digestion. So I believe it's GLP-2, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's GLP-1. So the idea was behind semaglutide, okay, we want to come up with a drug that's a non-stimulant drug. What does this mean? You can lose fat by using what? You can lose fat in the human body. Oh, no, I don't want to get into an hour lecture here, but basically,
it's okay.
Yeah, basically, you can lose fat, burn body fat in the human body by a couple different means. You can take stimulant class drugs such as, caffeine would even be in this. You take caffeine, you can take epinephrine, you can take ephedrine, you can take clenbuterol, which binds the beta-2 agonist receptor sites. Ephedrine, by the way, will actually bind both the beta-2 and all the beta receptors and the alpha receptors, and that's why there's nothing as good as fat burning on planet Earth as ephedrine in terms of stimulant class. However, we're not talking about stimulants, and we're not talking about anabolics that bind the androgen receptor. Here's the fat cell. You have beta receptor sites, you have alpha receptor sites, you have HGH receptor sites. That's why HGH burns body fat like nobody's business. And you have androgen receptor sites specifically for DHT. I told John about that at the beginning of the podcast, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? This isn't any of those. Ozempic brand name, I'm going to use the real name, semaglutide. Semaglutide does not bind any receptor site on the fat cell. So we're not burning anything directly, guys. Okay. This isn't a stimulant. Right. This is an HGH class. So people need to understand that. But what semaglutide actually does is, by mimicking, I gotta check if it's an exact copy or if it's a derivative mimic or something else. Like testosterone is obviously has, DH. We have, for anabolics, we have DHT derivatives, we have 19-nors, we have all these subclasses. So I'm going to get back to you on what kind of agonist specifically it is. But what I do know so far, this is the short answer, is that semaglutide does not attach any of the different receptor sites on the fat cell directly. There's no direct fat cell burning. The fat loss from semaglutide / Ozempic is caused by what? Strictly appetite suppression. So what they did was they took one of the hormones released by your small intestine, when you're full. So if John goes to the store and he eats, I'll just take a great example. You go to Aldi's, you go to the store and you eat, eat a pound of bacon or a pound of cheese. What's going to happen? Your body's going to sense all that fat. Some protein in there too, but your small intestine is going to sense all that fat for you. And guess what it's going to do? It's going to create and release GLP-2. GLP-2 is one of the hormones that does what? That slows, and if enough's released, it'll stop your digestion. What's the purpose of that? Well, most people, John, I'm sure you could figure this out, but most people with the brain is going to say, well, the reason the body's creating GLP-2 in the first place is to what? To slow down or stop digestion. To what? To absorb your nutrients, to absorb all that fat. If John eats a pound of cheese or a pound of bacon, all the fat comes pouring in. Guess what the small intestine is going to do? It's going to release GLP-2 along with other hormones to stop digestion so that your body has more time to digest all that fat. Okay, because you just ate a pound of cheese or a pound of bacon. So maybe I'm getting a little long-winded, but the gist of it is this. GLP-2 is a mimic or a copy. I got to check what type of agonist, but it's a copy. Semaglutide / Ozempic is a copy of GLP-2, which is naturally released by the small intestine to do what? To slow or stop digestion. So when you go and you take a shot of Ozempic or semaglutide, this peptide hormone is going to do what? It's going to artificially slow or stop digestion depending on how much taken. So what does this look like in fat loss terms? This looks like this, is that you can get if you took enough of this stuff, I got to look at side effects because I can't tell you, I can guess side effects, but I don't have the long list in front of me. But if you take a shot of Ozempic, depending on how much this is, you take a peptide hormone, take it in the fat, what's going to happen? Depending on dose taken, you can basically stop hunger because you're stopping your digestive tract to, depending on how much you take, you could stop it to a halt. Okay.
So yeah, that's what it seems. It seems that what's happening is if you take more than necessary, you get nauseous and you get sick. That's from what I've seen.
Yeah, and you could give yourself, I could double check, but I'm going to make a guess that you could give yourself ulcers with this, because guess what happens? You take enough of this stuff, you slow or stop your digestion, your stomach acid could just be sitting there. So wow. I could double check on that, but that could be a possible side effect as well. So, in terms of should you use semaglutide, the thing is that if you switch your diet around, you can naturally, what's the word I'm looking for? You could naturally, not mimic, you could naturally change these hormone interactions in your body. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can modify how much GLP-2 you make. I can modify how much GLP-2 I make. So could John, within reason, just by switching our food choices around to create less appetite, naturally, with our natural production of the hormone. So, am I going to tell people not to use semaglutide? No, I think that, if you've got an eating problem, you got to lose weight. I could see taking a small dosage on this. I can't give you dosages because I haven't done a deep dive on this besides what I already laid out, which probably sounds like a deep dive. But the thing is that you could take small amounts to help kickstart, a fat loss cycle or a diet. But long term, I would tell people I wouldn't take this, because the thing is that and this is probably where the muscle loss thing comes from. And you can stop me if I'm rambling too far.
No, go ahead. Believe me.
Yeah, but where the muscle loss thing probably comes from is people are taking this stuff, too much of this stuff, and guess what happens? What happens if you stop or slow digestion down too much when you're even if you're consuming enough protein? What's going to happen? Yeah. You're not going to be able to keep digesting it. You're not going to be. Long story short is you could stop digestion enough to basically even theoretically, if you're eating enough protein, to not be able to absorb enough protein because you're not letting your body process protein at the rate it wants to. So the problem I'm going to just lay out for you guys is that in small, that's the key word, in small amounts, could this help you burn fat and kick hunger a little bit? Yeah. But personally, I don't think it would be worth it unless this person really, really needs it to medically lose weight. There's just better options.
Yeah. It just seems to me because, look, man, if you are morbidly obese, and the Ozempic craze that's going on right now is the ultimate to me. I don't want to do anything, and I want to lose weight. because these are the people, because the people that I know that are taking it aren't morbidly obese. They're not, they just want, like, for example, my wife has a friend who is a struggling model, if you will, right? She really isn't. She claims to be. She claims to be an Instagram model, but she's not. She's a fucking idiot. But anyway, anyway, and the girl's a knockout. She does, and she's like, yeah, no, I got a photo shoot, so I want to take his Ozempic. I'm like, why don't you just fucking hit the gym and she's 20 something years old, and it's like, why, it's the ultimate. I don't want to do anything drug and I want results, and it just baffles me. Where and people say, oh, don't be a hypocrite, you've used steroids in the past, but the difference is bodybuilders, the majority of bodybuilders, hit the gym hard and use an anabolic as just another tool, along with food, sleep, supplements, so on and so forth. Nobody takes anabolics and doesn't go to the gym. If you do, you're an idiot, right? But the Ozempic, it's literally, and there's a couple of them. It's not, there's a couple of different ones out there now, because I guess they all jumped on the same train, because this started a couple of years ago.
We got to make some money, John.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I don't think there's any long-term studies with this either, is there? No.
I mean, we have some, clinical studies and other stuff, but again, I'll have to get back to you on this. But from what I know, this is relatively new as far as human data.
Yeah. Listen, Seth, you are like a human encyclopedia on these things. I thought I knew a lot, but you take the cake, and you're a great guest, man. I gotta have you back on, because this is too much shit to cover. I can't cover everything. We already did over an hour, and I can't cover everything. But fascinating knowledge, and truly great to get to know you. And we got to do more collaborations, because this was fantastic.
Yeah, let's do it sometime. And I collaborate, with people from all over, Florida, trainers, whoever. I mean, yeah, it's always a pleasure. And, we're both trying to grow our channel. So that's great. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And hopefully, whether you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced in the world of bodybuilding, fitness, athletic, hopefully you learn something. And ultimately, guys, if you're not 100% sure if something's safe, probably don't take it.
Yeah.
Probably don't take it.
So. Yeah, exactly. All right, brother. Listen, have a good rest of your night, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, you too. You have a good one, John. All right, guys.
Later, bro.